Hey everyone, I have an exciting show for you today. I actually referenced it in my daily financial news that I've been looking forward to getting this one done. This young man is putting out some amazing content on Instagram. He has a lot to offer, and I was so happy he said yes. So let's welcome Brian Adamson to the show. How you doing, Brian?
Doing well, Mike. How about yourself?
Oh man, I'm doing really well. I'm so glad you said yes to this. You never know. You don't know me. You're like, who's this guy? What's he talking about? YouTube channel? But you said yes. You took a shot, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Well, let's introduce who is Brian to the audience, what you do in this crazy world of real estate, how a little bit about how the story starts, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. I'll be 37 tomorrow. My
Ah,
birthday's tomorrow.
well, happy early
You caught
birthday.
me just in time. Thank you. Thank
Yeah, you're still 36.
you. I started in real estate. I'm from Detroit originally.
Okay.
I've been here in Florida. I live in Orlando now. I've been here for the last 10 years.
Okay.
But I cut my teeth in Detroit, started investing 14 years ago, right in 2006. I was a junior in college. And I
So remind me about 2006 Detroit. That still the peak, or had it already come down?
It was still the peak. It was
Okay, all
still the
right, all
peak.
right. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I didn't
we
mean to
were, we
interrupt.
were at the apex. We were at the apex, but I certainly didn't understand all of that, right? I was
Yeah.
just being opportunistic.
Okay.
And I uh, I actually got started from a refund check, $7,000 refund check my junior year in college.
Okay.
A buddy of mine in Detroit was flipping houses at the height of the market, and I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
understand. Yeah, I didn't understand what all that meant, but what I
Mhm.
did know was that he had buyers who apparently couldn't afford their down payment.
Hmm.
And then result of that, they needed somebody to come in and help out. So I would come in and leverage my refund checks as a
Ah.
gift to them. He would give me a return on my investment. And so I did
Oh,
a lot of
I
those.
just want to make sure I understood that. So let's say, for example, the buyer wanted his flipped house, wanted the end product, didn't have the scratch or the down payment, call it 2 or 3 grand. You would gift the 3 grand. I'm just making up numbers to the buyer. They would close. Then the seller, in this case, your buddy, would give you, I don't know, 3,500 or 3,800 back. So you'd be out of pocket a couple of grand for probably less than a day, right? Probably same day transaction kind of thing, or what's
Yeah,
up?
I think the longest one took 2 weeks, but
Yeah,
typically they were
something
like,
like that.
yeah, right, short of something going wrong at title, absolutely. They were quick turnaround. So
Okay. All right. That makes
um,
sense. Cool. All
yeah,
right.
yeah. So I did enough dumb stuff with my college refund checks and finally decided to put them to better use. And so, but that's how I got started, and
Okay.
from there I bought 3 rental properties my junior year while in college still, but I was doing it all in my personal name, which we
Yep.
all know that that's a big no-no. We later found out, right? Um, Built a new construction home. I was 23. I had a few rental properties, new construction home, graduating from college, getting married, 2007. Everything was great, right?
Yeah.
And
Woohoo.
then 2008 happened, right? And so everything
Ouch.
that I had, I was exposed.
Oh yeah.
But because of my private lending efforts, I built up some liquidity and I was
Yeah.
able to go out and be aggressive in that down market. And I bought, a little over 20 doors.
Nice.
For those of y'all that don't know, that's cash flow properties.
Yeah.
So I was doing seemingly well during that time.
Okay.
Got to a point where the property started to need, a lot of work,
Yeah.
HVAC, roofs, and things of that nature. And it's still funny to me that although I started out as a private lender, I never thought in that time that I could go borrow the money from somebody to do these repairs to the properties.
Right.
I ended up selling them off in the down market, 13, 14. And that portfolio back then, I probably had close to 200 grand all in on all those properties.
Mm.
Had I kept them and didn't sell them in the down market,
Right.
that same portfolio would be worth $2.8 million in Detroit today. So I left $2 million on the table from not having a mentor, not having education, right? So you guys need to understand this is very important.
Yeah.
And so eventually, finally found out about seminars 5 years ago, went to
Right.
one, spent tens of thousands of dollars, and best investment I ever made myself.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
learn how to do business on a broader scale. Prior to
Yeah.
that, whatever was in my immediate abilities is all of what I was able to do. But when I learned the power of leverage and leveraging other people's money, was able to really scale my business and went out and started flipping, dozens of properties and started wholesaling. And then, in the last 2 years, evolved into my now mentorship program, my apprenticeship program, and servicing students in that way.
That is awesome. So I just want to make sure I get the first story right, because everybody's beginning story is kind of their personal foundation for how they help others and they grow, right? So
Sure.
you start with private lending, right? You're leveraging a 7K refund check. You turn that into whatever it is, more, um,
Right.
very quickly, right? That's a very creative way to do it. And what I love about your story, again, because you and I have been doing this, let's call it 15 to 20 years, the market today is starting to feel a little '06 like, right? Not quite the crazy lending, because
Right.
that was '06 was that last '06 to '08. That was all crazy lending. That's all
Right.
that was, right?
Correct.
What we see today is single family homes are hot again, right?
They are. They are.
Freaking on fire. So, I love the fact that you kind of highlighted, hey, if I would have kept these things through the downturn, it'd have been a couple $1,000,000, right? 7 figures is no joke, right?
Mhm.
Buy and hold is where wealth is created, right? Not,
Absolutely.
so people need
Absolutely.
to hear that. I don't think we say it enough. Social media likes to flash checks,
Yeah.
right? Short.
Agreed.
That's income. That ain't wealth.
Agreed. It's
Yeah.
funny that you say that, Mike, because I've created a ton of active income for myself, and
Yeah.
um,
The
you
IRS
know,
loves you.
I'm telling you, man. And so I've been encouraging everybody, like, fall in love with not doing the sexy stuff for a while.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Even reminding myself of that. And I've been aggressively into the commercial multifamily side here recently.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you're letting people know that, like, cash flow, it doesn't seem sexy, but I'm telling you, it's just something about waking up and not having to scramble to figure out how you're gonna pay your bills, because you already got that passive income taking care of all that stuff for you. So
Yeah. I mean, let's just talk about some, for instance, right? You're talking about getting into multifamily apartments, which is, I own some of that stuff, right? So,
mhm,
you come into the new year, you can pretty much plan out what your depreciation is going to be, which is a non-cash expense. And let's just use
absolutely.
round numbers, right? Let's just say you're walking into the year with $200,000 in depreciation. That will happen, right? Because it's simple math, right? You
Correct.
can plan for this stuff. So in theory, right, if you're a real estate professional, which you clearly are, you
Mhm.
could make 200 grand in active income, not pay the IRS a dime
That's right.
in that scenario,
That's
right? So
right.
people got to, now that is sexy. Now, most people don't get that. That is sexy. When you make 200 grand and not pay the IRS anything, I call that sexy. let's flash that check.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. So tell me about the transition from Detroit to Orlando, because I don't know either market, but one is cold and one is hot. I'm guessing. I meant
Sure.
weather-wise.
Yeah.
What brought you to Orlando? Was it just weather, or what's the deal?
It was purely motivated by weather. Like, we were at a place, I
Good
kid you not,
guess.
we were vacationing here 3-4 times a year. And my
Yeah.
daughter at the time, I think she was maybe 8 or 9. And she was, she's a fish. She can't swim up there. And
Yeah.
so it was purely motivated by weather. We were
Okay.
like, we're gonna move and figure everything else
Yeah,
out.
we're just
And
gonna go.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and that's what we did. And so it's funny because our whole business model is remote investing. So we
Okay.
teach people how to fix and flip remotely, wholesale remotely, cash flow remotely,
Nice.
and how to set up the infrastructure so that they can appropriately identify boots on the ground and
Yeah.
hold people accountable and have the redundancy and things of that nature in place. But that's how we're able to service students all around the world. We got students in our mentorship program in Japan, Denmark, um, Afghanistan, as well as all
Wow.
throughout the United States. And so, one of our students just closed his first flip from San Diego and
Yeah.
Detroit. Never
Nice.
been there,
Never
right?
been
So,
there. Wow.
yeah,
Very cool. So when you were in Detroit, you were investing in Detroit, I think is what you said.
that is correct.
Right.
Yeah,
Then you go
and
to
I continue
Orlando.
to,
Okay.
right?
Got it. Okay. That
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah. Right. Go live where you want, but invest where the numbers make sense.
there you go.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can steal that for Instagram. Just give me credit. So you've actually put out some just killer stuff. I'm going to pull it up on my phone because I don't want to misquote you on
Mhm.
Instagram. I got 3 posts that caught my attention. All right, let me go to this. How do I get to this fast? See this, it always changes. Go to your name, go here, 1 sec. All right. So the first one actually you put out, I think a couple days ago, it's how to change your life in 1 year. And the reason I caught my attention is I think people always or overestimate what they can do in 90 days, but they underestimate what they can do in a year or 2. So do you remember that post where I put you on the spot if you talked about that? post?
Yeah, I don't remember everything verbatim, but I do remember the get rid of toxic relationships, right? That's a very important one.
Yeah, let's talk about that,
Um,
because again, that's in a lots of your posts. You call it toxic people or your network, all of that. Um, I've told many people that that's a big change. I'm like, hey, if you really want to make a go of this, you're probably going to have to change your circle, right?
Absolutely.
And why don't you talk about that? Because I think my audience is tired of me hearing it. Why don't you put a spin on it?
Listen, it's one of those things where when you're trying to produce new and good fruit,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be able to prune the things away that's inhibiting that fruit from growing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And and I use that as a metaphor when you look at you're trying to grow a new business and you're in this toxic environment. And not that people are maliciously toxic, but
Yeah.
if they're not breathing life into whatever you're growing, then they're cancerous to whatever that it is. And so, you always hear that it's lonely at the top. Listen, it's lonely during the process,
No.
right? Because in order to elevate, you have to separate. And
Oh, I like
it's
that.
not that you're poo-pooing on anybody. It's
Right.
just that you're so convicted about what you want to do in life
Yeah.
that you're willing to sacrifice even relationships in order to get there. And it doesn't mean that maybe you don't come back to those at some point in time,
Mm.
but you have to understand that nothing is more important than your evolution and growth and fulfilling whatever purpose that God has intended for you to
Nice.
fulfill while you're here on earth, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, everything starts with having a healthy environment around you.
Yeah, for me, I guess there's two things that I'm trying to point out to people more and more. First is um, that first bit of momentum is the hardest thing to build,
Agreed.
right? And if you're sitting there with your same five friends that, a month ago you were partying with all the time, that's all they want to do on Friday when you want to go look at real estate or you want to listen to a podcast or shoot, you want to drive for dollars, whatever it is. That's a problem, right? Because you're going to be trying to push this rock and it is hard, it is heavy, it is slippery. It tries to roll back on you. And if you have your five friends that aren't there to either A, cheer you on, or B, fucking push the rock with you, you need five different friends, right? And
100%, man.
yeah.
100%, man. I do, I do a Momentum Monday every
Oh,
Monday. I send a special message to my mentorship group. I put something on Instagram to my followers, and we got a group coaching program that I also. But the point is I want to remind people every Monday, and I call it Momentum Monday because of exactly what you just said. The hardest thing to get, not just in real estate, but as an entrepreneur,
yeah.
is momentum.
Yeah.
And
That
and
first little bit is,
absolutely,
so hard.
absolutely. I got goosebumps just from talking about it. I mean, it's by far it's the hardest piece.
Yeah.
And once you get it, then you have to fight to keep it,
Yeah.
right? And what you can't do, there's going to be inherent challenges just through going through the process alone, right? Anytime you're trying to do a big overtaking on something new.
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing you need is while you're going forward, you got all of these things trying to pull you back and reversing that inertia and momentum that you created. So I agree with you 100% on that, Mike.
Yeah. Then the other thing, I'm glad you brought it up. That's the next thing I was go to is once you get that momentum, at least in the beginning, don't stop, don't take a breath, don't let up. And again, I've been doing this 20 years. I remember people that were having success in 03, 04, 05. They got a little cocky, a little arrogant, right?
Yeah.
And doing their cash out refis or their flips or whatever. And next thing you know, they're driving a 7-figure car. They're taking $20,000 vacations. Let me just say the market was not kind to those people. Right?
You hear the stories today.
Oh
right?
yeah. There were people worth 7, or I knew one guy that was worth 8 figures. Oh, lost it all. Right. So again, remember how we started this with Brian, right? That the market's kind of feeling a little hot right now. So again, learn your market. And that's interesting. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, Brian, was I think out-of-state investing is hard. I think it is risky. And when I see what you're putting out there, I needed to talk to you because, on my channel, I go, ooh, if you're a San Diego investor, right, you're living in Cali and you're used to that 7-figure, 1950s build house, and you see a 40K house or a 20K house in Detroit, you're like, give me 7 of them.
Yeah,
that's probably not the right attitude. It's a little harder than that.
it is. But I think that, you know, and that's the piece that people have to kind of be sensitive to on social media. When we get 30, 60 seconds to put out a blurb,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And it's got to be something that's attention grabbing. But from that, there's a lot of work that has to take progress thereafter.
Let's
Okay.
talk about that so people know.
When I say you can flip houses from home, what I'm saying is that right now I'm at home, right?
Oh
And I've
yeah.
got Wi-Fi. And so as long as I do, and I've got Wi-Fi when I go to the beach for my birthday tomorrow,
Nah.
wherever I have Wi-Fi, I
Yeah.
can seek out new opportunities and get them under contract and go through the entire process without me physically having to be there.
Mm.
That being said, though, there's a ton of infrastructure. There's a ton of education you have to have behind that. There's a
Mm-hmm.
ton of contractual things you need to have in place. There's a ton of vetting that goes on
Mm-hmm.
while putting together this infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
And so, yes, you absolutely can do it from afar. And to your point, you can't be as cavalier to say, well, if I put 800,000 into one asset in California and I could go buy 7 of those assets in Detroit, it's just not that simple of a transition. However, I am one that believes rather than have $800,000 tied up in one project and have the exposure all under one project, I would much rather diversify my investment, because if I had 2 that went wrong, I got 6 that went right,
Yeah.
as opposed to being, you know, super exposed on one particular asset.
Yeah, no, I reached out to you on purpose because again, you're doing this out of state investing. I need to highlight that it is absolutely possible. It is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely profitable.
Yeah.
I just don't like the trend that I see in social media.
Mm-hmm.
That is, you know, a lot of people are trying to spin the easy button. And I've
Right.
been doing this a long time, and it's
Right.
not easy in my back door or back, you know,
Exactly.
next door,
In
right?
the backyard.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's backyard. Thank you.
Yeah.
Man. But it is possible and it is profitable. And that's, you know, you're doing it, have done it, and now you're teaching others. So why don't you talk about your mentorship and your program that is helping people see that it is possible and profitable?
Yep. Yep. Very good. It's yeah, it was like the organic next step, right? I started after I got to a certain place. There were people that needed help, and I organically was just helping people. And one of the people that I helped suggested that it's like, you should package this and sell it, right? And so
The
we
best
put all
way.
the framework together,
Yeah.
and that's what we did over the last 2 years. And so we've got students in 4 different countries. I mean, we got students in Denmark wholesaling deals from the MLS in Detroit, right?
Wow.
Without ever seeing the property and collecting checks. And so it's just a really good thing when you can give back and pour into others. And, you know, right now, that's been something I found a lot of joy in. I've actually scaled back on a lot of the flipping and wholesaling myself personally, just to give more of my time to my students and work with them on a one-on-one capacity. So it's not like, you know, when they come into our program, they get some other dude, like they get me. And so, you know, so you have to figure out how to make the time for them. And that's what I had to do. So now I'm focused on cash flow, commercial multifamily, and really just spending more time with getting my students and getting them to the point that they want to get to in their businesses.
That is awesome. So if somebody was already wanted to go check it out, go see a link, where would you send them if they wanted to go check out this program or check you out? Where would you send them?
I think my Instagram page would be the best place to start. It's Brian_Adamson1.
Yep. I will put that in the show notes. Okay.
Thank you. And you know, we felt a need to reach more people who may or may not be a good fit to work with us in that capacity for whatever reason. And so we created iFlip University, which is an online platform that literally teaches you everything from what type of LLC to start when you get started, what type of banks to deal with, how to source realtors, contractors, all the contractual pieces that you need. And so it gives them all the fundamentals to go out and do it on their own. And just some, you know, need some additional hand holding or just would rather prefer it for that matter. But iFlip University is a great place to start for anybody, and they could digest it at their leisure.
Very, very cool. Well, I want to go back to your Instagram page again. It's something I look at nearly every day. You put out a post, I think it was called 7 Habits of Self-Made Millionaires. I'm going to talk to you about number 4 and kind of what it means to you. And that number 4 is they use dreams to set goals.
That's so important, man.
Yeah. So talk about that.
That's so important. So ironically, I just did a whole spiel on this last night with my apprentices about vision,
Okay.
right? Vision, dreams, they're all synonymous. They're typically not things that we have to go look for. God actually put them in us, and it's up to us to kind of discover them and uncover them throughout our life. But what happens is when you have a dream or you have a vision, the it's easier to set the discipline. So I think what happens is oftentimes people do things out of desperation or by default, right? We just got to pay the bills, or this is just what I'm used to doing. But when you have a dream and you have inspiration, it's that much more easier to set the discipline because it's something that you're passionate about and that you aspire to do. And so I just really think that once you get clear on what your dream or your vision is, that you'll find it to be a lot easier to police yourself and build in all of the infrastructure that you need to go out and support this thing to give it the life that it deserves.
Yeah. Uh, I'm curious. So, your dreams today are very different than they were 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that evolution for yourself so people can see almost give them permission to dream bigger? I think a lot of people, again, it goes back to where we started this, right? Your network. And
Yeah.
maybe there's some self-limiting beliefs that you don't think is possible. But, I've interviewed felons and high school dropouts and people starting in their 50s. And this real estate investing is possible. Just find your niche, go after it. That's really what I want people to believe. But I always find it best to tell personal stories. Can you talk about your evolution?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you alluded to that. I mean, that's where my journey started. So
Right.
in the inner city streets of Detroit, got kicked out the house at 17, was getting into trouble, was looking at a 4 to 10 year felony, on my way to college, flunked out of college, had my daughter at 18 years old. So I was the statistic, right? God had a different plan for my life. And, I just kept I always was great at taking action. I was just taking it in the wrong places, right?
Yeah.
And so, what I found was that I've always had this dream of being the money guy. Okay. What that meant to me at 15, 16, 20, 25 was getting rich.
Yeah. Stacks. Yeah.
Right. But now what it means, because it's still that, my vision is still that, but it's different now. Now it's for the purposes of kingdom building and being able to be a vessel to reach people throughout the world and basically be a resource center to not only help those in my immediate reach and in my programs and such, but to touch people directly and indirectly, and be a resource to people all throughout the world for the good, and for the kingdom. So
yeah, and you're doing it. I mean, what you're putting out there affects a guy in California. So
absolutely.
Congratulations, it's working.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one I had on there, I highlighted 3. This one's really simple. I think we hit it earlier, but it needs to be hit again. Is income is not wealth. Right? People don't get that in the beginning.
It's just not, man. I mean, when you make the first $1 million, you think before you hit the $1 million, it's like that's the number, right? And then you do, and it's like that's not it.
That's not it.
Like, and I don't care how much money you get, if you don't learn how to keep it, you don't learn how to invest it, like it will never be enough, right? It just won't. And what you'll find is the funny thing about it is you will find, like I used to work in corporate America before I retired, and you will find that the guys who make 6 figures plus are typically worse off than the guy that's making maybe 40, 50 grand, who's a lot more frugal and saves appropriately. They don't have the capacity to go out and get all of this additional credit to get themselves in trouble, right? Exactly. So that's why when you look at income 2 different ways, one being manage what you have.
Yeah.
I don't care where you're at right now. If you're making 30 grand a year, manage what you have, because you'd be amazed at if you handle your finances and you're prudent about it, that you can create some very good opportunities for yourself exactly from where you're at.
Absolutely.
Don't get caught up on the timeline and all the flash that you alluded to, Mike, and the big checks. Focus on where you're at. A lot of people think that, once I get here, I could get started. No, you could start exactly where you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Allocate something every single paycheck
You got it.
towards your investing future. I mean, you know, you can do this business 100% on leverage, but what you
Absolutely.
have to get is the intellect. That's your responsibility in this.
Mm-hmm.
You go out and learn it, and you can go find people that have money on the sidelines that be more than willing to partner with you
Mm-hmm.
and help you grow your business. But you have to do the first part in investing in yourself.
Yeah, I have a particular passion to try to train or educate or mentor or whatever it is, high school students, right? I think there's a huge gap in you know, let's just call it senior, right? Juniors and seniors, right? When you're a
Yep.
freshman and sophomore, you're just trying to figure it all out. But like juniors and seniors, at least me, I wasn't taught about money, right?
Mm-hmm.
At all. So one of the things I just want to throw out there and tell me if I'm crazy or not is when I go talk to high school seniors, usually I ask all of them. I mean, I ask them, could you live on $2,000 a month? Right. I'm just trying to pick a number. And
Yeah.
so far, I've never had one tell me no, right? Because in high school, right, $2,000 a month, right? You're like, score, right? Got no
Right.
expenses. I'm living large, right?
Right.
And I tell all of them, right, that the punchline of this is if you can live on $2,000 a month, I guarantee each and every one of you, which usually they're 17,
Mm-hmm.
I tell them by the time you're 25, you could be financially independent if you live on $2,000 a month. The fact is, it is a lot easier to retire early the lower your number is, right? The reason it took me 15 years is I had to replace 2 six-figure incomes. That's freaking hard.
Yeah.
Right? If you can live on 24K a year, which is $2,000 a month, I promise you can retire financially independent in less than 5 years.
Mike, that's gospel. No doubt. You could take that to the bank. You absolutely could. I'm telling my daughter now, I just dropped her off at college a couple weeks ago.
Well, where's she going? I saw that. Where's she going? Which school?
Yeah, she's at University of New Haven in Connecticut.
All right, very cool.
Yep, she's doing her pre-med there. And
wow.
Yeah. And I told her, I said, listen, whether you do the 6-year compressed, I said, if you take these fundamentals that I'm teaching you right now at 18, by the time you're 25, like it won't be that you don't have any care in the world, but seemingly, right, from a financial perspective, you won't.
Life will be different, right? You'll have options.
Absolutely different.
Yeah.
And I come from a blue collar family, man. I didn't know financial literacy and those things. My dad was a firefighter. My mom was a cashier at a grocery store for 25 years. So I come from a blue collar family, and they did well from what they knew, right? Yeah. But this is a totally different animal. And it's funny that I was on the treadmill 2 days ago and I made myself a note that, because I've been conscious of getting my thoughts out, right? And getting it down, because I have so many of them. And one of them is to go back and teach high school kids about financial literacy and real estate. And so that's one of my passion projects and I'm glad you're already in that space and doing so.
They need help, man. They do. They do. So awesome. Well, yeah. One of the things I want to do is make sure your team gets me your address, because I want to mail you an autographed copy of my book, One Rental at a Time.
Appreciate that,
it's a 15-year story going from one house to financial independence. So, and that's the book I give to. I'll give it to any high school class out there. I just mailed out 25 of them to a class. So we need to help. Where does your life go? It seems from here, it's about giving, it's about the programs, it's about impacting others, which I so appreciate and I'm in sync with. But what's the next decade for Brian like, you think?
It's getting broad. I think the commercial real estate is going to take me into a whole nother stratosphere.
Yeah.
And from there, I'll start to build those other connections to get even more broad into some other spaces. But it's funny. I want to stay narrow and then get broad.
Okay.
That makes sense, right? Sure. I tell anybody that, if you can, whatever you're doing 12 hours a day right now, if you just give whatever that you're trying to start 2 hours unencumbered, bring the water in the office, no distractions, wife, children, nobody can bother you for 2 hours, and you focus on that. Eventually it'll go 10 and 2. It'll go 8 and 4. It'll go 6 and 6. And you will find yourself on the other side of it. I've done it so many times in my life. And you'll look up and wonder, man, when did that happen? Right? Because you just made a deliberate effort, just a little bit of time. And so that's what I mean by being narrow for a specific point in time and then getting broad thereafter. So
very cool. Very cool. Well, this has been so much fun for me. I hope to do it again. Any kind of closing thoughts, Brian? Anything you want to leave the audience with?
I just, I guess in the spirit of, and this is probably going to date our recording, but in the spirit of, everybody saying, I want to wait until COVID's over. Like,
Ah,
if you've been following along, right, there's no such thing. And so,
amen.
stop delaying your future, stop delaying the life that you want to live. Take this information, take all this good content that Mike's putting out. If you follow other people, find your tribe, figure out, filter what's good, what's bad,
Yeah.
what works for you.
Yeah.
But take action, right? At some point, take the information and take action on it.
I'm glad you said that. I'm telling people this is the best time I've ever seen in the 20 years to learn, right? It might be a little frothy. There's not enough inventory, totally okay. You don't have to write offers today, but most of you need to be in a learning phase. You're staying at home. You're not going to movie theaters. You're not eating out as much.
Yeah.
Time is a little more flexible today. I've been telling people this is the time to learn. If you're a buy and hold investor out of state, I'm telling them, I did it 20 minutes a day, but I did it 20 minutes a day for 20 years, right? Get consistent, get focused, learn your market. It is absolutely possible. And again, it's not about the checks. The more you can sacrifice, right? Live below your means, which again, you had all over your Instagram page. I mean, it's simple, but it's not sexy.
It's not sexy,
yeah,
but it's fulfilling at the end of the day.
Oh, when you get to the other side,
you sleep better than the sexy guys. I promise you that.
I promise you that. Yeah. Absolutely. I sleep like a baby. Oh man, Brian, this has been so much fun, man. I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. And again, I will put the link to your Instagram page right at the top.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Oh man, this has been fun.
Have a good one. Look forward to the book, man.
Yeah, you got it.